So welcome everybody to a Thursday night Zoom in on your work. This is, of course, the Pittsburgh chapter of the ASMP, American Society of Media Photographers, which for 75 years has been the key to success for visual content creators across all media. So whether you're an established photographer working with the world's top brands or publications, a fixture in your local community, a YouTube creator, a film or video editor, maker, a student who wants a career creating images or video that can change our culture, ASMP is the place for you. And they've been doing this 75 years with a lot of legal help, business help, health and safety during COVID, all that kind of good stuff. So that's my little spiel about ASMP. And tonight we have the very talented Heather Tabacchi. And I will let Heather take over as far as introducing herself, her story, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. I feel honored that Jen asked me. I wanted to just do a little bit of inspiring you guys with my story and kind of the timeline of my business. And let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys really quickly. Okay, so I would say I was a child that always took pictures, and I got really lucky that it didn't just end as a phase. So for me, I started at interning at a studio when I was in high school. And then I would say I started my business officially in 2013 when I was in college. I was doing part-time weddings while I was in school, basically any portrait shoot that I could get, senior pictures. I was in Indiana, PA, and I was driving back and forth to Pittsburgh. And after I graduated college, I had to do an internship as part of my graduation. So I decided I was going to go big, and I did an internship with a celebrity photographer out in Los Angeles, packed up my car with all my stuff, drove out to LA. I thought I wanted to photograph models and be in the big city. And I realized that models know that they're beautiful and they're not that fun, or I should say not as rewarding for me to photograph. I found a lot more, my heart felt fuller when I helped women find that beauty and feel like models. So I drove back to Pittsburgh. Everyone thought I was crazy for coming home to this cold state. But in 2017, I remember going to my father and saying, I don't want to shoot weddings anymore. And he looked at me and he was like, Heather, you have to shoot weddings. That's your bread and butter. And I was like, Dad, I'm going to find a way to make my own bread and butter. I can't do this. I'm crying before weddings. So for me, I just really found that weddings made me feel drained and gave me anxiety, and I was dreading them. And I realized that anybody that was paying such a high amount of money to have their big day photographed shouldn't have somebody that was full of dread photographing it. So I began to flood my Facebook newsfeed with Sue Bryce, who is really great at inspiring portrait photographers to have a more luxury portrait experience. And I realized that she was having $3,000 sales with portraits, and that was about what I was getting paid for weddings. And I thought, man, if I could just spend all of my time finding one client that would pay me $3,000, I won't have to shoot weddings anymore. So in 2017, I began renting a studio. I literally packed a wagon full of my samples and some dresses, and I would like wagon into an hourly rental and wagon out of it. And that was kind of my start to in-person sales. And I really did a deep dive into all of Sue Bryce's coaching, and she really transformed me. So I would say 2017 is the year that I quit weddings. Well, 50-50, I had to kind of like run out the ones that I had on the calendar. 2018, my business was, like I said, about 50-50 weddings, but I was really starting to notice that I was able to find these clients. I was able to hire an assistant. I switched coaches. So I got good at selling the $3,000 portraits, but I noticed that this coach, Megan, was having $16,000 portrait sales. And I was like, holy guacamole, how do I do that? So I switched over to Megan. I basically spent like 10 grand just in investing and coaching in myself with Megan. And I would say from there, my business just really took off. And in 2020, I even through like the crazy COVID year, I had my highest year ever, and I brought in 300,000, and I was able to have that $16,000 sale that I saw Megan was having from one portrait client. So that was like, I was in disbelief, I would say, for probably 4 months. And I really wanted to share with you guys just this visual graphic, mainly because if you look down at 2015, 2016, and 2017, those were the years when I was shoot and burn. I was shooting a high volume amount of clients. I was working my tail off. I was doing those weddings. I was crying. And in 2017 is when I quit to do portraits full time and really investing in that education. And you can see how quickly that it came back to me, that investment of education. And then from really from there, it has just been huge growth. And I feel really thankful and sometimes in disbelief that this is my portrait studio. And I'm really hoping, one of my biggest goals is I would love to have a $500,000 studio by the time I'm 30. Fingers crossed. And yeah, so I should hopefully end this year at like 420. So hopefully on my way there. Before I go into question or more into like pricing or anything, does anybody have questions so far? Oh, I think you might be muted.
I lost my cursor. I'm like,
Oh,
where is it? To unmute. That's awesome. So you said you went from basically click and burn to like high value. Was that like uh, uh, like, you know, they talk about imposter syndrome and things like that. Like, what did you have to do to be like, oh, I can do this, I can charge this, I am worth this? Like, what helped you to take that big kind of leap of faith in yourself?
so it's so funny. Sue Bryce, she has a wonderful accent. She has a lot of audio files. And I swear to you, she lives in the back of my head, just saying, you got this, you can do it. And so I think for me, her education is so good at helping you believe in yourself. And then once you really believe that you can do it, I would say Megan is great at just like really nailing those sales and maximizing the sales. But I honestly like listened to Sue on repeat. I watched her videos as much as I could. I even had audio files on my phone so that as I was driving to sales appointments, I could play it and just give myself like that constant boost. But really for me, what I did was I really followed as many of these coaches that had free Facebook groups. And I just flooded my entire newsfeed with people who were having success in this type of portrait photography. And I just kept telling myself, if they can do it, I can do it. I just have to figure out how. And then I really just invested all my time in the education to kind of just like help get me there.
That's awesome. And you cut out the naysayers. You were like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I've found throughout my years that I really kind of love when people tell me that I can't do something. And I'll never forget the night, literally before I bought this course that like brought in this 2018 revenue. My older brother, bless his heart, he meant nothing by it. I was going to buy this course. It was $1,500. And I just like to talk out loud. And I said, I really want to buy this course. This woman's having these amazing sales. I think I should do it. He looked at me, he goes, I just don't think you're ready for that. I just don't think you have those types of clients. And I was like, hold my beer. I'm going to buy the course right now. And yeah, so I always say like, I'm kind of glad he told me that, because it made me just kind of like jump the gun and buy the course. And then I never kind of looked back from there.
That's awesome. I told somebody once, when somebody or recently, when somebody tells me I can't do something, it's like food for me. It's like those monsters that feed off kids' screams, that's kind of, so you're the same way. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, in photography, there's definitely like the high volume and low volume business models. And I just found, for me being an introvert, that I recognized that what fulfilled me most was working with a low amount of clients and really spending a lot of time with them. So by the end of every one of my portrait shoots, I feel like I know every single thing about my clients, things that are very intimate. I know their child's and pets' names, and they really become friends with me. And that to me just worked better for my personality. So I would say a lot of times when people are seeing these high sales, they think, oh, like this photographer just picks a number out of the air and decides what to charge. But really, it's about having your client experience match the charge, like the price that you're charging. So, you know, I raise my prices, but then I raise my value. So it's not that my clients are having the same shoot and burn experience. You know, I'm going to their homes, I'm helping them design their art, I'm picking out wardrobe with them, I'm designing Pinterest boards, and then when they order their art, I'm installing it in their homes. Like, we have many touch points, and I would say that each client that I photograph, I probably spend like 30 hours with them start to finish. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, I don't have that time to spend with every client. But I think it's because their mentality is that, you know, they have to have hundreds and hundreds of clients a year. But I mean, it's possible to have 100 clients a year and just kind of like maximize those relationships. But yeah, I love it for me. Yeah. So I was thinking I could kind of transition into my flower series, unless anybody has any other questions on this. We'll kind of circle back to business stuff kind of when we get back into financial goals after the flower series. So Jen had reached out to me and asked for me to share with you guys a little bit about this series. So I would say for me, this is called my Rainbow series. So I had a moment right as we shut down in March when I was online shopping, like most of us did when we had nothing else to do. And I found this red dress, and I recognized that I couldn't photograph any of my clients. And so I just kind of went on this journey of doing self-portraits. And I collaborated with my friend, Mount Lebanon Floral. She is the owner there, and she just kind of created for me this red headpiece. And we just happened to do red. And then after we were done, she was like, we should do all the other colors. So we just kind of like, I don't want to call it like accidentally, but just kind of went on this color journey together, and ended up doing every single color of the rainbow. And for me, it was really awesome because I only photographed my clients, and I kind of found that like I was the only person that wasn't getting photographed at the end of the day. So it was nice for me, even to when I wasn't feeling up for it or creatively motivated, to just kind of force myself to be creative. And I'm working on offering these types of sessions for my clients, but I definitely want them to be, I mean, they take so much of my brain power. They'll definitely be like the most exclusive things that I offer. So I'm still working on a package. I'm like scared for myself to even work out the price on it. So I've haven't quite narrowed it down, but I definitely think it'll be more in like the $8,000 to $10,000 range, and just kind of like include large pieces of art and like a really large experience to kind of go with it. Right now, my next step with the Rainbow series is it is being displayed in a new art gallery in the Strip District. And they are kind of representing me and helping me sell it as art, which is like a totally new world for me. I've never really, I mainly specialize in making art for my clients for personal use. So this will be kind of like the first thing that I've really done with my art in a commercial setting. So I might need your help, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so I would say for me, everybody asked about inspiration. I would say a lot of my inspiration comes from wardrobe, props, colors in themselves really inspire me. For this series, I just really wanted it to be like total color saturation, monochromatic. I think it's really beautiful. And yeah, so we just kind of ran with that. And so I should definitely check out the exhibition. It's not up yet. I just ordered the pieces, but we still have to install it. Any questions on rainbow stuff?
Who's pushing the shutter on this, Heather?
Oh, that is such a good question, because she asked me what my biggest struggle was in this series, and it was my camera remote. oh my goodness, I think I was being tested by the universe. I literally, have just like one of those clickers. And I swear to you, it works. I could take it home. I could set my cameras on my couch. It would work every single time. I'd bring it to the studio. I'd go to press my clicker and nothing would happen. So mainly it is just a remote with a lot of trial and error and a lot of frustration behind it.
How much time goes into actually producing the image?
So I would say time leading up to the session, I could probably say that I spend like about 2 months just prepping wardrobe, backdrops, and same thing with the florist. She does a lot of prepping on her end. The day of, because we're only shooting 2 looks, I would say probably like just is about 5 or 6 hours, which I said that to somebody earlier and they were surprised, but I think because we only have 2 looks to go through and because I get tired of pressing the shutter, I've kind of decided that when we're creating for these, we're mainly creating for like 10 images, not 100, which just kind of takes off some of the pressure on that. I'm actually really excited to do them for other people so I can be behind the camera creatively.
Heather,
Yes.
are you looking at a mirror when you're photographing yourself, or you just have an idea of what you want?
I would say it's pretty much just trial and error. I think a mirror would be really helpful. And at one point during this process, I tried to tether and I failed and I never went back to try again. I think something happened. It just kept crashing on me. It was on a day where my remote wasn't working. I got new lights and they weren't working and my tether wasn't working. And I was like, forget about it.
What were you trying to tether with? What program?
I got a cord like off of Amazon and Lightroom, and it just kept crashing my computer.
You got to get into Capture One, and your life
one.
will be.
Oh,
Get
come
out
on,
of
I use
Lightroom.
Lightroom.
Get out of Lightroom, Heather. You're past Lightroom.
Well, then I tried to use the Canon software, and that still crashed as well. And I just thought that it wasn't meant to be.
Past Lightroom. You need to take. You invested so much in education. Spend $20 on a Capture One course, and your life will just go twice as crazy. You'll hit your $1 million within 2 years.
Okay, that's so funny because I used to use Adobe Bridge, and I had this argument, and then switched to Lightroom, and now I'm gonna have to switch again, is what you're telling me.
I'm a big advocate for Bridge. I'm a huge advocate for Bridge, but for tethering purposes and what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and the kind of output that you're pursuing, and quite honestly, Capture One is really going to be a program that you're going to find no issues in, and you're going to be really, really happy in there.
I think if I could have seen what I was doing while I did this, my everything. I kept saying, people are like, oh, they're so gorgeous. And I'm thinking like, oh, I was just frustrated the whole time trying to figure it out. But yeah, I'm definitely open.
I hope you didn't. What I hope you heard out of my comment was that these are gorgeous and these are wonderful, and you don't need to improve on that end. But I heard you talking about technical errors and problems, and that I think you could solve that problem by using Capture One.
Yeah, and it's cheap too, so why not at that point? Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is definitely like my creative baby. People keep asking me what's next, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot of work. Just let me live with this for a minute.
So when you were designing the shoot, what was your process? Did you start with the dress, the clothing, and then give that idea to the florist, and then she came up with did you do like drawings, mood boards, kind of? Well, not true mood boards, but how do you design each?
Yeah, so
what was your process?
We started with like a tone. So I realized quickly that there are a million shades of orange. So we would kind of decide on a hue of the orange, and then I would pick out the dress and the wig, and then I would send her those. And then from there, I just kind of let her, I'm a really big advocate. Like when I'm working with a creative team, especially if it is all collaborative and I'm not paying her and she's not paying me, I really want to make sure that she's able to create from her heart. So I feel passionately about not putting my creative people in a bubble when we're doing a creative collaboration. So when it came to makeup and the florist and hair styling, I just was like, whatever you want to try, whatever you want to do, I want this to be your creative baby. So I felt like we were kind of like all operating in our zone of genius. And I really think that's why it just flowed and kind of reached that like level of epic that I don't think we were all ready for. But yeah, I would say if you haven't done a collaborative shoot with other creatives in that way, I would really recommend it because there are times when you have to trust the process. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, on that orange shoot, I was like, I don't know how to photograph these pieces. And it took us a solid hour to figure out how to photograph this like bonnet thing in a tasteful way. But that push creatively, I would go home every day feeling like so full because it's kind of like it is a challenge. And even I think especially when you feel like you can't do it and then just like seeing your own work, it's really it's awesome. I would definitely recommend it.
I may have missed this. This is Dan. Are you doing all your post-processing yourself or do you have someone else doing that for you?
I do most of my post-processing, but I did just recently switch over to have somebody help with like skin editing. My workflow was really bogged down and most of my shots have like light stands in it. So I started outsourcing the basic stuff and that really sped up my workflow like immensely.
Thanks.
Yep.
Heather, how are you printing these for the art show? Are you doing canvas or acrylic?
Framed canvas has my whole heart. I love it. It's all I offer at this point. However, wholly expensive when it comes to like printing an entire show. So they actually recommended that I just do like gallery wrap canvas. And then if somebody wants it framed, we can have it framed for them. So I have like 2 that are already framed and then the rest will just be just kind of framed gallery wraps. I'm sorry, unframed gallery wraps. I lied to you.
Another question.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you using Guild for that?
So I thought about it and then I was like, that would be like $12,000. And I kind of went over pricing with them and they were like, they kind of sold me in a sense of like making it easy on myself. And because it's my first exhibition, I really wanted to keep the cost a little bit lower for me. So I just went through Bay and I figured it's a good tester and if it's successful, but they didn't really seem to care that much about quality. It kind of hurt my heart a little bit.
Are you buying the costumes, Heather, or renting them?
I buy them most of the time, and then when I can, I try to resell them. But I use a lot of, it's funny that you asked that because this dress right here is the most expensive dress that I bought. It was only $250. But at the end of the day, the shots that I loved the most were the ones where I actually wasn't even wearing it. So this was my second shoot. And at that point I thought, well, I'm not going to waste my money on expensive wardrobe. So I really challenged myself to buy pieces. Like this one was vintage. It was like $13. I use sites like Shein and things were under $20 on there as well. But I think most of my favorite shots, I don't have any wardrobe on, which was funny. So I think a lot of people can feel limited by wardrobe. And I wanted to really inspire people to know that if anything, the $250 dress was my least favorite one.
Are you sharing these with your florist friend?
The pictures?
Yeah. Are you sharing these with your florist? Are they being able to use this as their promotion?
Yes. I love the idea. She does a lot of weddings. So for her, this is kind of like what fills her heart. So anytime I do something like a collaboration like this and somebody is working for me for free, I love to kind of like pay them back with the images. So I definitely want for her to be able to post them. And I have actually gotten some amazing clients from working with her because she's right on the main strip of Mount Lebanon. So it's been great kind of like, it's been a great collaborative friendship over the years, and I've adopted her as a really close friend.
That's great. Yeah, both of you benefit.
Yeah.
Heather, I have a question on the color, your color control. I'm just curious, how did you not struggle with a color cast on the skin, because there's so much monochrome color around? It didn't get picked up in the skin at all?
I don't think so. And I did struggle a little bit with orange. Not in the way that you would think. I couldn't tell if it was off or not. But if anything, I think because it is so monochromatic, I think if it was picked up on the skin, like kind of how it is on the cheek here, I feel like the eye doesn't really mind. It's just kind of like, you're just kind of like, yeah, the whole thing is orange. So I think you can see it a little bit in yellow. Sometimes I kind of like went with it and painted a few areas on my face to kind of like bring out the color cast. So yeah, I would say if it happened, I ran with it.
Yeah, I see that around your eyes, that you actually expanded the color.
I tried to, for some of them to, like I have green eyes, so I kind of just picked this color right here and painted my eyes to be a little bit more of a yellow hue. So I tried to do that with the colors that made sense, or at least a little bit. Purple got a little bit weird because nobody has purple eyes.
And are your clients going for this look? Are you shooting people similarly, or is it a totally different approach sometimes with other people?
My clients really love the monochromatic looks. So I found that if anything, they're inspired by somebody who may look at this and want like an all red piece. Sometimes people order floral arrangements for their sessions. I haven't quite offered like a full on rainbow session for somebody yet, just because the pricing will be so different and the products we're creating will be different too. But I have been shooting the floral pieces for so long, probably like 5 years now. So I definitely think my clients want this type of look, but it didn't just happen overnight. It definitely took me a long time to kind of build it that way.
A style.
Yeah.
Heather, are you just using seamless, like Savage seamless backgrounds, like paper backgrounds, or something different?
Yep, they're just the seamless ones. I usually order them on Amazon because I don't like to pay for shipping. I have way too many colors. If anybody needs a color, you call me. Yeah, it's a little bit addicting to, now I'm at the point where I can kind of tell what colors people like more than other colors. Nobody wants orange, I'll tell you guys that.
Hey, did you get rollers for your baby Junior, your high boy?
That is so funny. So that stand actually did have wheels that came with it. That's the whole reason I bought it.
Yeah.
I just wanted a stand on wheels. I didn't want like the stand on wheels. That was like,
yeah.
So I ended up returning it and got something a little bit smaller.
Did you get the baby Juniors are real nice. I take those on location with me. And they don't, the spread on the feet might be only 3 feet.
Yeah, I can't remember. Actually, I've been trying to delegate more tasks. So it's funny, I had my studio manager research the stands, and that's the one she picked out. So I was like, no sweat, it's gigantic. So I had her order like the replacement. I can't remember which one she ordered.
I would encourage you to post it in the Pittsburgh ASMP site.
Yeah.
Because not to beat our own chest, but we'll get you connected with the right stuff.
Okay. I was really, really tired of having stands that weren't on wheels. It was driving me crazy. It's the minor inconveniences that happen.
Yeah, I think of doing those ones that pull down and putting in those rollers up in the ceiling. Those are really nice and fairly affordable.
I think I'm just waiting for a studio space that I feel like I'll be at for like at least 5 years. Because I actually own like a motorized backdrop system as well. I just haven't installed it because I haven't found my home yet.
Well, with this kind of art, like you could be anywhere and people will drive out 5 hours for it. So
yeah, I definitely feel like nobody, I mean, it's nice to be centrally located, but I don't think that like I get people just by foot traffic just because I'm there. Yeah, the city is it's a blessing and a curse. Okay, so I think the next thing that we were going to talk about was a little bit of some of like the financial goals that I had. I think I shared with you guys already, a big goal of mine is to hit 500,000 by the time I'm 30. I am 27 now, so I feel like I'm on track. And I think with, I was telling Jen earlier, I'm doing like a private one-on-one mentorship right now, not with Megan, but with another guy. His name is Tavis Guild, and he owns multiple businesses, and one of them is an amazing canvas company called Guild Canvas. They're basically like a boutique lab for canvases. And the reason that I was really attracted to his coaching and mentoring is because he is basically all about systems and creating multiple streams of income. So there is a really big, I would call it like, change that you have to make once your photography business hits 500,000 and grows from there. You kind of end up at a point where you need like over 10 staff members. And I've decided for me, I would rather not have that many staff members. So when I get my business to that point, I have goals of opening up different types of businesses. If you've seen my work, I am extremely passionate about couture gowns, and I love the idea of having a warehouse of them that I can rent out to other photographers. And then I also love, and I know that so many photographers struggle with their retouching, and I love the idea of having like a retouching company where we're kind of like have in-house retouchers that people can send their work to. So yeah, so main goal is to get the business to 500,000, having these systems that are in place, and then being able to open up other businesses. Pray for me.
How many employees do you have right now?
Right now I have one that's a studio manager that she's part-time / full-time if I need her to be. And then I do have the retoucher that's kind of like on a as needed basis. And then I have a virtual assistant, but I am transitioning her out to just have kind of like the in-house studio manager position. I really wanted somebody that could be like my second brain and help me with the administrative side of things, because I feel like we're all really great at creating art, but sometimes that back end work is really where you get bogged down. So my coach visually gave me this, like, he was like, I really want you to just imagine all of your tasks on a plate, and I want you to see how much of your plate you can give away. So I've been trying very, very hard to just let go of things over this past year and give myself more of my time back, because I'm definitely one to work myself into the ground and hit burnout and then have to take a break and kind of recycle. So I'm really working on delegating. It's going okay.
I think it's a good idea to not try to set a record, but setting a goal is fine. But,
Yeah.
you know, you don't need to go 6, 7, 8. I think you do need to temper it with what your desires are, how much you want to work,
Yeah.
and, you know, how many people you want to deal with, because the more people you deal with, the more
Yeah.
difficult it is. So I think that's a good approach, Heather.
I really love that my mentor, Tavis, he was the first person that ever asked me to sit down and write out all of my personal goals. So I think as business owners, we sit down and rewrite out business goals. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, what is this business? Like, what are we working for? We're working so that our businesses can serve us, not for us to spend our lives serving our business. So he forced me to kind of sit down and realize what I wanted in life. And I think we don't even know, like, what is our retirement number? Like, what number are we trying to get to? And so he made me do a lot of homework that I told Jen made me feel like a young grasshopper. But I'm super thankful that he made me do that. And it really opened my eyes. And another thing that has been huge for me is somebody said, give yourself permission to have the business that you want to have. So I think for me, when I had all of these coaches, you kind of feel like a sponge, and you say, oh, well, she's doing it this way, and I have to do this because that's what she's doing. And then I was like, I don't really agree with that. So why am I doing it? So for me, having that that shutdown time to really like step deep and reevaluate products that I didn't want to offer. What do I really love? What do I love to shoot? And then really just kind of focusing on that stuff has been really helpful for me.
So what do you, or I had a question there. I'll circle back to what you said about retirement. So that's something that a lot of people, especially in your 20s, you don't think of, especially a lot of photographers don't think of, from people I know. So how do you get that figured out, or decide to, like, what's your whole strategy with that? I take it sounds like you have a plan in place.
Yeah.
Which is really good. So who helped you with all the financial stuff, even for your business? Because that's a lot of struggle for people starting or having a business, is keeping everything in its proper place with taxes and retirement and all that stuff.
I met at a networking event a woman financial advisor who I really connected with. And what I loved most about her was I had met her, let's say, on a Thursday, and on a Tuesday, she was at my house helping me set this up. So I felt like she just made it really easy for me and took away most of the homework. And right after I met her, she got me set up with a CPA. We switched over to an S Corp. And then almost immediately, she helped me set up like a 401k and my Roth. So right now, the way that my business is structured, I take a salary, but then my business is able to fund my 401k and my Roth. And we're able to max it out, and it's a tax write-off for me. So it's hard. I go back and forth a lot because I've read into books that talk about financial advisors, and I know that they take a fee, and I hate that they take a fee, but I recognize, had I not met her and had she not helped me get started, I would have $0 in my retirement. And I've at least now had a few years of maxing out contributions. I definitely think that it is super important, and I wish there was more education on getting that kind of stuff set up. To be honest, I think that it's paralysis analysis a lot of the time and just getting started. So she has been a great contact for me, just because she's taken that away from me and really helped me just kind of run with it.
That's awesome. We're in our schedule for future programming. One of the things is going to be about financial advisor advice, all that kind of stuff. So that's good to hear how beneficial that's been for you. Oh
my gosh, yeah, it's a huge tax write-off if you're an S Corp. I don't know if it is a tax write-off if you're not, but you should be an S Corp just to write that off your taxes. Okay, so I have here, I love that you asked, can photographers still make good money today if they do things right? And I would say I honestly feel so passionate about I have this vision of my head of like Pittsburgh photographers, and let's just say a client calls one of us and she's like, oh my God, what's going on in Pittsburgh? Everybody is like $2,000. Like I love the idea of people being able to charge their worth and have great success with it. And I would definitely say that I see it all the time. People making good money in photography in all different areas. I see it happening in the smallest of towns. I would definitely say like the value that I kind of mentioned earlier, and really just kind of like figuring out ways that you can stand out from your competition. So one of my biggest homework assignments with my coach was defining my competitive advantage. And I really just had to sit down and figure out what makes me different and how can I run with that. And really just digging deep into my own brand and figuring out why people hire me. And so when I'm marketing, I can speak to that and kind of inspire, who is my, client avatar, like who is my best client, who is my worst client, and really doing like a deep analysis of like my top spenders or my most satisfied clients versus my least satisfied clients. So I think a lot of photographers get frustrated because they might not have people on the books. They might not know how to get their calendars filled. They might not know how to market. But I think that having that coach for me has just given me such a deeper analysis on, is the photography market going up or is it going down? Like that kind of stuff I think is huge. So really, if you haven't gotten this from me so far, I just think education is like entirely everything. I think I had a woman reach out to me. she had seen one of my posts in my educational groups, and she's from Pittsburgh and moved her business. And she's sent me an email. She goes, I've been shooting for 17 years. I want to know how you had such an amazing January. I always think January is my worst year. I would like to do a one-on-one coaching call with you. And I was like, oh my God, what do I have to teach this woman that has been shooting for 17 years and running a successful studio? And I kind of had to get out of my own way for a second and be like, I'm going to just tell her everything that's been working well for me. I'm just going to give her that knowledge, and I'm going to get out of my own way and sit down with her. And we did a Zoom call. And I thought how incredible of this woman to have been in business for 17 years and to just be like, I can learn something from everyone, to send me a cold email to see if I would sit down with her. And I think I only charged her like $500. And just like 2 months later, she sent me a very nice message that was like, I implemented some of your ideas. I just had an $8,000 sale, and it's all thanks to you. And I was like, imagine if I was too scared to meet with her because I thought she didn't have anything to learn from me. So I would just say, like, there's just knowledge out there everywhere. And I'm always trying to learn and improve my systems. And if you don't want to do like a full on, year of coaching with somebody, at least doing just like an hour of coaching with someone who inspires you, I think could be huge. And if you're not ready to invest financially, there are a ton of free Facebook groups that I kind of lurked in for years until I was ready to invest in their courses, that I can kind of link you guys to that as well. But I think it's really about, like, Jen, if you're a headshot photographer, like finding yourself a coach who specializes in commercial headshots, because they will be able to help you in that zone of genius versus me, who's like a couture photographer or something like that. But I would just really like develop some mantras for yourself. A big mantra for me when I was starting, and it was, if they're doing it, why can't I? And every time I would doubt myself, I would just kind of like repeat that mantra and just kind of like have that in the back of my head. But yeah, that's my feelings on how everybody could do this. Do you guys have any questions on that?
No, well, until someone else says something, but I love that. And I think there's, and this is not just in the photography industry, it's in a lot of different industries, where years ago, the idea was, because you can do everything, you should do everything. Mm-hmm. And the thought of specializing, I think to a lot of people, was like putting your eggs all in one basket. Like, you shouldn't do that, but it's really specializing in your particular niche of photography. For people who do that, it not only just makes them better at their craft, but they become more easily identifiable for somebody who wants what they have to offer. Like, the market likes that. And I've seen countless different times, like what you're doing, what Kayla's doing, like people just thrive, and they're building their own brand around that. So that's very inspiring and encouraging.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to ask yourself, what do you dread doing? Like, for me, I dreaded newborn photography because I'm scared of touching babies and I don't want to hurt them. So I decided, until I'm a mom and have a baby that I can, put in the froggy pose, that I don't want to do that anymore. But for years, I had not said I don't do newborn photography. So I would say yes to a newborn shoot. I would spend a week watching videos, trying to figure out how to pose. And then I would dread the shoot all the way up till that day. So then I finally said to myself, I don't do that. And then now when an inquiry comes in, it's really easy. I just send them to my friend who specializes in newborn photography. I'm not scared that I'll never see them again, because they'll probably come back to me for family. I feel like in the kind of world of IPS photography, it's very normal for us to have the same clients and kind of see them pop around to our studios. But the mentality is kind of like more of like abundance, which is nice. I'm just like, okay, I'll see you next year.
I've got a couple of questions. So it sounds like you pretty much land on your specialty by process of elimination. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then secondly, if you don't mind sharing, a $16,000 or the production or a combination?
Oh, yes. I think, do you think I should wait for him to unfreeze?
Just curious.
Did you,
Oh,
you
okay.
yeah. I didn't hear any of his questions, so
Oh, okay.
if anybody else did.
Oh, did I freeze up?
You froze
Yeah.
up. I think you asked me about the $16,000 sale and kind of what went into it.
Yeah, I can repeat it real quick. Okay, so a $16,000 shoot, is that the budget for the production? Is that the deliverables? What makes up a $16,000 shoot? If
So
you don't mind sharing.
Yes, of course. So I think it's helpful to know a little bit about how I price my portraits. So for someone to do a shoot with me, I have a session fee. It's $550, and that just covers like the day of. And then from there, I kind of ask them, what type of products they're interested in. These particular clients were branding clients. So they just love the idea of having a lot of images. So as we were narrowing down at the ordering appointment, I price my images at $295 each. And then I have packages that have some savings. My top package is $36.90. It's 25 portraits. And then if somebody has more than 25 favorites, they add on 10 packs of images for $890. This particular client ended up with 125 favorite portraits. So we basically took $36.90 plus 10 pack, plus 10 pack, plus 10 pack, like until we got to 125. I think that came to be about, I'm gonna say like 9,000. And then we did one wall art. That was about $900, and we did a gift album for mom so she could have a matching copy. And then at the end of the ordering appointment, I'm sweating at this point on Zoom thinking about this invoice. She goes, and we'd really like to shoot with you again with the rest of our family. So can we add a session fee on that too? And I was like, of course. And she didn't want to talk about, she wanted to take care of the invoice. So she didn't want me to talk numbers on the Zoom call. So I hung up the Zoom call, I sent the invoice, and I prayed a lot. And I tried my hardest to manifest that she would pay it, and she just paid it. So I think it's funny. I recognized I had photographed them previously. My first sale with them, I think I ran them through too many elimination rounds. I kept bringing up similar pictures. One, they would be like this. The next one, they would be like this. And I'd be like, these two are so similar. Do you want both of them? And by the third round, she looked at me and she goes, we're good with all of these. And I realized I thought she needed to narrow down more than she was telling me she needed to narrow down, and that money wasn't of importance to them. They just wanted their images. So the second sale, I did not do that. And by the second round, I said, let's just go through these and make sure you love them all. And she said, yep to every round we went through, and then I just sent the invoice. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned in sales is to never assume what your client can spend. These were two sisters in their 30s, and who am I to tell them what I think their budget is? So yeah, you never know what somebody's thermostat is. It's crazy.
So do you shoot the same number of images for every client and then sort through them later? In other words, you must shoot a ton to get that many acceptables.
For that sale in particular, we had a ton of people and wardrobe. So I would pretty much say on every session, I shoot my heart out. I would probably say I take about like 800 pictures on a family session, but might only show them like 130. A lot of my sales I do on the same day. So at the end of the shoot, I just kind of go in the back room and I narrow them down so they're not looking at links or anything that's blurry. And then I just sit down with them on my laptop and run them through different rounds and help them narrow down, and then tell them what the damage is.
And do you give them to them digitally also, or just prints?
So I love prints. So anything that they get with me in print, they get the matching digital file. But so even the bigger sale we were talking about, those are branding clients. So they definitely need their images for branding, but I still love to give them an album or something tangible. I always say I want everybody to be, 85 years old and be able to pick up their album. And even as us as business owners, wouldn't you love to see yourself in your 20s and your business in a little memory album? So even though people push for digitals, I just remind them that their digitals are included. It's mainly what they're paying for, and that I would love to gift them the tangible copy as well.
Well, the tangible prints actually come out to be a promotion for you. Yeah. Because that's something to show their friends, and all of a sudden, your name's getting out there.
Yeah.
Heather, am I correct in hearing that your big sale you had was really a commercial job and not a family or like portrait, private portrait job?
It was a mix. So these girls, they own a jewelry company, but they had included their sisters. So it kind of was a blend of like a sister shoot with a little bit of branding for them as well.
The corporate sale can add zeros, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Do you have some
Let
more
me
pictures?
ask you about that. Do you, and this goes into one of our things we were going to talk about, copyright licensing, usage, all of that. If you're doing a shoot for just a sister who's going to use these personally, is your pricing different if it's for a woman who's going to use it for her business, and it's going to be on websites, social media, billboards, maybe, or local advertising, something like that? Maybe not billboards, but what's your take on that?
So I personally don't price differently. So with my images being $295 each, and most of my clients spending at least like $2,500 with my lowest package and session fee, I find that it's pretty much like I feel covered on my end. I think you can charge and probably make a pretty penny when it does come to commercial photography. I just mainly specialize in personal shoots. I don't do a lot of stuff for branding. So yeah, I feel like I'm not the right person to ask. When you put that question on, I sweated a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, and why I put that on there is because I think it's something really important for everyone to talk about, because like in the commercial world, there's things that are very important. There's the standard that goes back for years, like because of the, copyright law of 1975 or whatever, all these things that all these guys who have been shooting these big jobs for like Honda and for industry, they know all these things. Whereas a lot of people who aren't in the commercial world aren't as familiar, with how things work or what they should do. And there's a lot, as when the world went digital, and now with all the social media and stuff like that, you get a very big range of what different photographers are doing. And that's why I think it's a important conversation to have, and just hear the whole story from everyone, because the world's changing, as well.
I think it's very eye-opening for all of the coaching that I have invested in. I have never had anybody teach me how to price myself for commercial work. And I remember having an inquiry where I think it was a doctor, and he wanted the copyright, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I think I posted in some group, and then eventually I was just like, I didn't get the job because I didn't know how to price myself in that scenario. So I definitely think it's something that is not taught enough, or at all, if anything.
No, I agree. In fact, I was Googling something, and in the law tog, interesting enough, it said that if you do commercial work, you should give away your copyright. And I was like, what? Because I don't think any commercial photographer would say that, So I think really that's what I see the value of ASMP as the world has changed as ASMP is continuing to grow. I think these conversations are going to come more to the forefront. So it's easier for everyone to understand even what to do, regardless of the branch of photography you're in.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you dreaded the question. That's what I'm trying to say. It's okay.
That's what it was meant to do, right? I mean, even honestly, like with the stuff that I am getting into with the art gallery, I was like, man, I want to see this contract, because I have no idea what they're going to ask for. Are they gonna, try to get some form of ownership, and also just kind of the feeling of like, what happens if that is in the contract? Like, what grounds do I have? What, it's just an uncharted territory that you kind of, I call it like a new door that I have to figure out everything that's behind it. Like, I have no idea where to start with that.
Yeah, and I think that
a caution to all of us. I just saw an article last week. Edward Weston, pepper number 14, sold for $50,000. You don't know what the most innocent photograph, practice photograph, can become epic.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to be careful how we price and what we give away rights-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really see that ASMP is really on top of those kind of things, the education behind it, the history behind things, and just we have a lawyer on speed dial apparently, because I texted him a few weeks ago and he popped on our Zoom. So
nice.
So there are those really valuable resources. Oh, there's a little kid in the window.
Heather, are you getting releases from your clients to be able to use their photos for your promotion?
I don't usually, but I do usually ask them. But it's informal.
It would be good to make it formal, and it would be good to get it from everyone, especially if you're doing anything like this or doing this, like the show that you're going to be doing in the gallery. Are there clients in that?
No, it's just all me.
Okay.
Or just make it part of your contract. That little verbiage saying you can use the image however, wherever you want to for any purpose.
Yeah, and then still having the conversation like you do, because yeah,
That's
you
good. Yeah,
have
also
the right to, you don't want to, like, some people are really private. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have a question about your copyright and everything. I know it was like a year or two ago, you took an amazing image in Iceland with a dog and a woman and Norway or Icelandic Air took your picture and shared it. Did you ever pursue that in any way as copyright infringement?
No, I didn't.
You could have made a lot of money.
wait, who shared her picture? Did you say?
Airlines, commercial airlines took her picture.
Really?
Without her permission. Yeah.
Wait, what's the statute of?
She wants to make her $500,000 spot, and she's
that'll
losing
get
out
you
on the
there.
biggest cash point, stolen property.
Yeah, that picture got shared by like a buttload of people. It went kind of crazy there for a minute.
Yeah, you might enjoy the world of NFTs.
I have thought about that.
And I would highly, and it's not too late to go after somebody, and it certainly would be worth I still would argue that it's worth a conversation with someone so you can understand, because to me that infringement of a airline stealing your picture, which if anyone hasn't seen the picture, it's one of the best pictures I've seen.
I think it's in my presentation.
Personally, I've ever seen. It's gorgeous.
I think it's in my presentation. Wait, I can show you guys. Contact.
And this is a good group of people to encourage you and to, that picture right there, to not just encourage you, but also connect you with people where you can find, it has a value.
Mm-hmm.
It has, I think it has a lot of value. It's not only is it gorgeous, but it can be used in multiple reasons and multiple ways. So to own that and to also hold people accountable for their actions is you should never feel personally bad about telling someone you owe them money.
Do you guys know when it comes to NFTs? So you probably just have to get like a model release for anybody that's in the picture that you're gonna sell.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And probably the owner of the dog too, the way the world goes.
Oh, that's true.
Luckily that model is the owner of the dog, but she's in Iceland, so I have to get one from her. But I think that one would be cool for an NFT.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, I'm gonna guess you're not sending your images into the copyright office for copywriting them. Yours would be a pretty easy way to do that because of the way you shoot so many images of the same ilk, and you could do it monthly, and that would be the key to collecting on that, the airlines having that registered. I know it's a pain in the ass, but
that'd be a quick $30,000 conversation.
Right. Because what these big companies do is they'll use your picture and taking gamble, they'll get away with it until they get a letter from a lawyer, and then they'll settle because they know it was wrong, but they just like,
or they'll just say, well, I'll stop using that, and then you won't get anything.
The statistic, last statistic I heard about copyright infringement was only 3% of creatives copyright their material, which means the corporate world has a 97% chance of getting away with it. And believe me, they'll take that chance.
Well, if you see one copyright infringement, you can still copyright the work and protect it from any other infringements. So, you know, it's something to keep in mind. Can we see more pictures, Heather? I saw you, it looks like you have a big presentation.
Oh my gosh, this was a homework assignment that I had for one of my coaches, but I can show you guys my website. So this is my website. We designed this in-house about a year and a half ago. I realized that my website did not show the experience, and that was like one of the biggest reasons that people booked with me. So I wanted to just really kind of show them actually what it looks like to be photographed at our studio, and then a little bit about our process. And then this is one of my pictures that really changed my entire body of work. This was a model call client that I did. I had found this little girl, and she was working for Doherty at the time, and I wanted to photograph her. Mom calls me because she was 14. She goes, do you want to photograph her twin sister? And I said, yes, and you too. And just days before their session, I found these couture gowns at like a bridal dress shop sale for $100. And that was how my couture photography started. It was just like a luck of the draw. I really think the universe was looking out for me with that. And then let me show you guys some of my favorites would be, these are, I was thinking of these when you guys had asked me about if my clients liked the rainbow stuff. I would say this is kind of how they get inspired from the rainbow session. So we might not have the big headdresses, but we do kind of like the colors. Let me show you my couture kids. I started doing kind of like blends with paintings from public domain, which has been really cool. And then I also do these with kind of like mixtures of landscape photography in the background. So this is a picture that I took, and then this picture is kind of like digitally added into the backdrops. This little girl, I loved her. She's in the cathedral. And then, yeah, so I do a session every month that I call Couture Kids Model of the Month. And really for me, it's a chance to kind of just create from my heart the work that I really want my clients to book me for. So like these two little twin girls, they were my model of the month. So were these girls right here. And these two both were as well. So now for me, when a client comes to my page, you know, these are some of my favorite works that I've created in the entire year. The client is getting a session fee complimentary from me, but they're buying their images. So they're still, you know, paying me for my time and for the work, but I am getting to create for my dream client, and people book me in these types of sessions because they're able to visually see the work instead of me trying to explain to them what it would look like if they're little girls in a cathedral with a pearl crown on their head.
I'm out at your website right now. Very nice.
Thank you. I get scolded because I don't have enough voice. I'm working on it. And then I also started this year doing these Couture Pet Shoots. So we did this for my client. These are not actually her pets, but everybody else is their own pets. She just had a dream of being photographed with big dogs. So these Great Danes were blind and deaf, which was very, very challenging. And then from that, we kind of inspired people to be photographed with their pets. This one, we tried to replicate like the Caravaggio painting with the boy with the fruit basket, but with cats. This little pit bull, I love her so much. So really, I would say any genre that's couture really is where my heart is. But I still do other stuff like you'll still find headshots on my website. It's just not my favorite, but I will do it because these people become great clients and come back and they'll do their headshot, but they might also do a couture photo on the same day. So we kind of blend genres quite often at my studio.
Heather, can I ask you a question? When you say couture, I'm just curious about the client's motivation for that to make the photograph. I mean, you must really have an understanding of that because you're attracting them for this particular, very, very particular kind of experience and photograph. Do they then exhibit it in their home as an artwork of themselves, or how? I'm just curious about that part of it, that identity part of it, you know, like a portrait is about their identity, but in the couture, it's a fantasy about them. Oh, there you go. Fantasy about themselves. So it's just interesting.
Yes. Okay. So I empower my clients all of the time. And I think that one thing that some people don't do is, so like I have a product section on my website and it literally says, see yourself as a piece of art. So I'm really just trying to show them and give them that like validation that people do see themselves as art. And then even further, I always think of like, wall art is a seed that you have to plant very early on. So on that phone call, I have to say, do you have art in your home? Do you have, family portraits hanging? Do you have a place that you envision art in your house? And then I'm constantly posting stuff on social media. And I have to even validate them that I do this for my own home. And so like I found this post to be very strategic because, I printed this for my office for the days when I don't feel like putting on real clothes, when I'm not feeling good enough, for all the times that someone was worried about feeling vain for putting themselves on their wall, and to show that I am worthy of being art in my own home. And I am literally wearing a sweatshirt with stains on it, like toothpaste is on my sweatshirt because I really just wanted to show the reality of like how I appear every day versus how I can look at myself as art on the wall. And I mean, comparatively to my other posts, you can just see the reach that this one got, the amount of people that reacted to it. And I guarantee you that they're contemplating the idea of putting art on their wall because they're seeing something like this. So for me, I think, I even posting, a picture in a frame. Like, what is that telling my client? Like, this beautiful piece should be in a frame. Is the quality on that piece great? No, but is the idea there? Yes. And so I find in my marketing, I'm constantly kind of planting those different types of seeds. And then something else for me that was really helpful is I kind of got the idea from one of my coaches for something that's called master art retouching. It's basically the idea that if I'm retouching something for your wall and it's going to be 40 inches, it doesn't get the same amount of retouching that a 5x7 gets. So even that in itself is creating like just a little bit of doubt for that client to DIY it. But this picture, it has a digital backdrop to it. I spent so much time doing, color painting on it. So that is something that can only be done for the wall. So I'm also trying to create a little bit of exclusivity and those big ideas with like the flower backdrops. And then when they fall in love with that idea, it has to be for the wall. So it's been a little bit of like sales psychology for me to kind of really, don't tell my clients this, but I kind of feel like people are like sheep. You just kind of have to guide them. For the longest time, you know, when I'm on that lead call, I say, you know, people come to me because we specialize in art for your homes. And I had to say that when it wasn't yet true. And I had to keep saying it. And, you know, so it is starting to be true. Do the clients know at that time that I dream of selling wall art all the time, but people are still buying 5x7s? No. But there's a lot of really interesting books that you can get on sales psychology. Even just the phrase, most people come to me for art in their homes. People want to do what most people do. So it's really, yeah, I think you have to show what you want to sell. So I'm constantly trying to put my pieces in frames, and then you have to plant every single seed that you can.
Heather, I have a question about how you're handling your pre-shoot consultations. Like for your personal branding clients and headshot clients, are you still going to their home and, you know, looking through the clothes in the closet and photographing the walls and talking about wall art for those clients that might just need digitals for their website and social media?
Okay, so this is like a blend of my two coaches. So our coach, Megan, she really likes the idea of going to clients' homes, and that's really stressful. It takes a lot of time. Clients can live in Wexford, they can live in the South Hills, and you're just bopping around like all over the place. So when COVID happened, I started doing Zoom consultations, and I was like, whoa, this is really nice. So then my coach Tavis, I feel like has kind of given me permission to do consultations in my studio. And the main benefit for that is that I am trying to sell wall art and my studio is full of wall art. So I can point to them and show them art. I can show them my closet, and I can still vision with them for their wardrobe from Pinterest, or, you know, it's not hard to tell them what to pull from their closets. And then I just ask them to send me a picture of their wall for my software. Have you guys ever heard of ProSelect software? So I get them to kind of then just send me pictures of their wall. So right now I would say I'm a blend of Zoom consultations. Sometimes when I think they're going to be low spenders, I'm just like, let's just pop on Zoom because it saves me a little bit of time. But I'm trying to transition to fully in studio so that they can kind of be in the space, be face to face with me. And I also feel like when people come to your studio, they can kind of separate you from their aunt that does photography. I'm like, this is my space. It's kind of like the real deal versus like their Aunt Jane.
I was just going to say, this is transcending the Kodak moment. The Canon AE1, anybody can pick a photo with a camera. You've transcended that with this work.
Thank you.
You know, the studio thing too, Heather, if you can get them into the studio once, of course, it's more likely you're going to sell them something, but also they'll feel a lot more comfortable coming back again.
Yeah.
For the shoot.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I like to talk about this client because she called me. It was like a dream. I felt like I was dreaming. She goes, I want a painting commissioned of each one of my daughters solo. And the only reason she found me was because of one of my Model of the Month clients that I had done. So session that I did, no session fee, just had an idea to kind of blend stuff with the Renaissance backgrounds, and ended up booking a client that not only wanted one art piece, but she wanted 3, and they were all kind of in my like dream style. But even I think just the idea of putting something like this on my website, you would be so surprised how many people. For me, I did it for years. I just had my pictures on my website. And I mean, in a world of people who only have pictures on your website, I think it's really helpful when somebody is deciding if they want to book or not, to see and be able to kind of go through the entire experience and see the products and all that jazz.
What would you tell Heather? We're on a mission to make ASMP and young photographers, whether they are new at the business or young in age, the confidence and the understanding that they can do it, that they can make a living, they can pursue their desire. What would you tell a young person who's looking to go into this realm and make a living? Do you have any words of wisdom?
I think it's funny because I was doing a call with another photography group, and this woman said something to me. She goes, "You're just so fearless. How are you so fearless?" And I didn't respond well to it in that moment, and I hung up the call, and I was like, I am not fearless. Like, I am full of fear. I just allow myself to, feel that fear. And a big motto that I had for the longest time was, I'm just going to try it. And I'm just going to try that thing. And it's scary. And if I fail, then I'll pivot and I'll try a different avenue. So there's a lot of, in-person sales. It's a big pill to swallow, but if you never try it, you'll never know if it's right for you. And if it doesn't work, then you can kind of adapt it and try a different model. But I think just allowing yourself to know that if you're feeling that fear, it probably means you're doing something right and you're on the right path. And there's a saying that it's reward begins with risk. So if you don't ever take those risks and push yourself into those boundaries, you're never going to hit that reward. And if you just kind of like sat in your comfort zone for the rest of your life, I don't think you would progress very far. So I mean, every time I try something new, my mentality is, if it fails, I'll try again. So I think you just got to do it, and you got to be okay with being scared.
I think that sums up photography.
Yep. Yeah, fear is normal. You just start to feel it a little bit less.
I had a question about your session fees. I noticed you're doing like the $550 without order credit. And this is also something that I'm looking at revising for this year, because I'm currently doing the $690 and the $1290. And just like trying to hone in on, I don't know, I feel like I'm way overshooting. I'm doing too many outfits. I'm overextending myself. All my shoots turn into these like 6-hour days. So like, how many outfits are you shooting in your session fees? And do you offer a custom extended session, for example, if they're going to add on additional family members and more hair and makeup looks?
Okay. The first thing that I would say is, do you like the credit in your session fee? Like, do you like it, and do you resonate with it?
I don't mind it. I mean, it's never burned me. Nobody's just bought one photo, and it kind of helps me out sometimes during the ordering session. I'm like, oh, remember, you do have this credit. So far it hasn't been an issue for me.
So for me, I felt like including a credit in my session fee was confusing my clients, and it probably was because it didn't resonate well with me, and therefore I wasn't explaining it well. And even more confusing, I found that when I was like, oh, the extended custom session fee includes a bigger credit, that kind of added like another level of confusion. And then I also didn't like that at the end of the day, with a $500 credit and a $690 session fee, I was only getting $190. And I was like, why is everybody getting paid but me? Because hair and makeup and my assistant. And I just didn't feel right. So what I did was I just took the credit out, and I also had people that only bought 2 images with that credit. And I also took the option away to only get a la carte images. So now I only have my lowest package, which for me really set me up in a way that if someone's doing a shoot with me, I'm at least getting $2,500, because that's my session fee plus my bottom package. That is also my session fee plus my smallest wall art. So I strategically made it so like, even if someone's coming in with a vision for one wall art, I'm still getting $2,500. I find that if somebody is adding in a bunch of family members and doing something like an extended session fee, I pretty much just make my sales. I kind of joke with people. I'm like, man, Deborah, we're adding in 6 outfits and 10 family members. You are going to have so many favorites. You're going to be mad at me. So I just kind of am like gauging the room with that kind of stuff. I find that somebody who has a very low budget doesn't have a very large vision like that. And then if I kind of sense that they're having a lower budget, then I wouldn't suggest doing something larger. I found for me, it took me years to realize that I could ask people not directly what their budget was, but what they wanted from me at that consultation. And it came from a conference that I went to, and a woman said, if I don't know what art we're creating for, I'm not creating the art. And I realized that I was getting to the ordering appointment and felt like I was playing roulette. I was like, what are they going to buy? Is it going to be 1 picture or 100? So I started being really upfront with my questions at the consult. Do you like an album? After they've seen that the albums are $4,000, do you like wall art? If somebody's like, oh no, we're probably just going to go smaller prints, then I know that they're at least, looking at not an album, which is, $36.90. So I kind of found sneaky ways to ask them questions to kind of gauge their temperature at the consult. But I found with the $550 session fee, I don't really need a extended custom because those people are spending well anyway.
Awesome. And how many outfit changes are you doing for your sessions?
I would probably say on a sweet spot 4 or 5. 3 is my minimum. I think my maximum is like 8, but that is very rare and very overkill. I have noticed that you don't actually need to shoot probably as much as you think to get the sale that you're going to have anyway. So even for somebody that's buying your top package, which is 25 images, math, if you do 5 outfits, don't make me do math on the spot, they're going to get not that many images in each outfit. So I think just like strategically, thinking about your packages and how many in each look do you actually need for that package. And then just really, I think people get exhausted too with longer sessions. So I really try to only shoot for 2 hours at the max, except for my really good clients. Then I'm like, girl, we'll go all day. What do you want for lunch?
Was the Iceland thing a one-off, just a opportunity that presented itself, or do you do or plan to do some location shooting?
I went on a retreat with about 6 other photographers. I didn't know anybody. I just bought a ticket and I met, he's a well-known retoucher. His name is Pratik Naik, and he was hosting it. And somebody last minute like dropped out of the spot for the retreat, and I bought a ticket and went, and I only had like a month to plan it. So so it was a retreat for photographers. So they had like the locations planned out not very well. A lot of the models canceled on us, and actually ended up being the model for like most of the shoots. So when that day happened, I was like, oh, thank God we have a model, because I don't shoot landscapes. And talk about people not telling you things are a good idea. The main guy, not Pratik, a different guy that was co-hosting, was a lifestyle photographer. So he didn't understand my vision. And I was like, literally I've been waiting like 7 days for the shoot with this model. And I was like, I have my dress, have my crown. I really want to photograph it on the black beach. He looked at me and he goes, I just really think all that dark is going to blend in together and it's not going to stand out. And he tried to cut my idea off and wanted to shoot her in like an Icelandic sweater that everybody does. And I was like, no, I think it's okay. I'm still going to shoot it. And I like had to like kind of fight for my 20-minute window with this girl. And it ended up being such a popular photo. I think because she might be a little bit more well-known. And once she shared it, it kind of went on like a snowball of Icelandic travel places started sharing it. And I think that's how the airline came across it. But I was trying to keep track at one point, but I think just one of the Instagrams had 20,000 likes on it. And I wish I could go back and count. Like, I wish there was an easy way to tally how many, but it really blew up and somebody told me it wasn't a good idea. So there's your motivation to do things that people tell you not to do.
If anybody has any more questions before we technically wrap it up. speak now or you can never ever speak again, and you can never talk to Heather again. You're like, it's done.
Cut off.
How do you like you bought a pro photo that plugs into the wall and a pro photo with a battery. What's your, do you wish you bought both batteries or two that plugs into the wall?
I am actually so thrilled that I have one of each. I cannot tell you. The one that I have that plugs into the wall, I'm like, that is old faithful. It's never going to die on me, but it is so freaking heavy. That's why I was trying to buy the wheeled light stand. And then the other one, I have so much anxiety about that battery dying, even though I have a backup battery just like on set. But I do love the idea that I can bring it on location. I have like a shoot coming up with like a horse. So I am glad to have both. But that was a huge debacle in my life. I tried to buy lighting for the first time and I was like, what pro photos do a battery? Or I can't imagine having both battery, to be honest. I think I would just be nervous all the time.
Well, you can always plug those in. It's not like you gotta, they can work off of a plug.
But somebody said that the battery will drain faster than the charge.
I don't know. I know the people in those groups, and I wouldn't trust a word most of them say.
Okay, all right. So what you're telling me is I don't have to have anxiety about it.
No, I would.
Not
I
with
mean, it's a
Pro
quality
Photo.
product. That's a
Yeah.
quality product, so I would not worry about it that much.
I will say I was shooting alien bees for my entire forever, and I just to be able to even like change my, like not even like the Einsteins, like the Alien B400s with the slider on the back. So anytime I wanted to change my light, I had to bring the light all the way down, slide it, bring the light all the way up. And when I lost my assistant and needed to hire someone, I was like, what is everything I can do to make my life easier in the studio? So those pro photos were my first step to be able to control them from my little trigger.
You're shooting all that with one light?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time I shoot like one light very angled down and then a reflector bounce back and very close to my subjects, which is why I think my lighting is soft, and which is also why I outsource my retouching, because there is always a light stand and a reflector in my lights or in my pictures.
You got the big deep large umbrella yet from Pro Photo?
I have a umbrella that I don't love. I'm like an octabox gal.
Oh, okay. That big deep large umbrella is so sorry guys. That's my love. My love affection.
Well, let's wrap this up so officially. So thank you, Heather, so much for spending your Thursday with us. This is wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. That was fun. Thank you.